My dying father looked me in the eyes and asked why I abandoned him. But I had visited him 2 days earlier. That's when I realized my sister had been poisoning him against me. I actually laughed at first because I thought he was joking. I had been there 2 days earlier. I was bringing him groceries, driving him to chemo, checking his medications, calling him after every shift at the hospital. But he looked genuinely hurt. Then he said, "Vanessa told me you were angry about the will." Vanessa was my older sister, the favorite, the one my mom always defended, the one who could scream, lie, steal, and somehow still become the victim. I just stared at my dad, because I had never mentioned his will, not once. He looked confused, then embarrassed. Then he quietly changed the subject, like he was scared he'd said too much. That was the first moment I knew something was wrong. After that, everything changed. Dad stopped answering my calls. My texts went unread. Whenever I showed up unexpectedly, Vanessa acted like I had walked into a private meeting I wasn't allowed to attend. One night, I came by with soup and groceries and heard her arguing with him in the living room. She said, "You can't leave everything split equally after everything I've done for you." I froze in the hallway. Dad didn't answer. Then Vanessa saw me, and the way her face changed still gives me chills. She went from furious to sweet in half a second. "Oh, good," she said. "Claire's here." Like I hadn't heard anything. Like she hadn't been pressuring our dying father for his house. Dad looked exhausted. Not just sick. Defeated. A week later, he called and asked me to come over alone. When I got there, Vanessa wasn't home. He asked me to close the kitchen door. Then he whispered, "Your sister's been asking me for money." I said, "I know." He shook his head. "No, honey. A lot of money." Then he admitted he had already transferred her almost $90,000. $90,000. And then he said the words that made my stomach drop. "She wants power of attorney." I begged him not to sign anything. He looked down at his hands and said, "She says I owe her." Before I could ask more, the front door opened. Vanessa was home. Dad instantly stopped talking. My dying father looked scared of his own daughter. And when Vanessa walked into the kitchen, she smiled at me and said, "What did I miss?" But her eyes weren't smiling. They were warning me. That night I told my husband Ethan everything. I expected him to be horrified. Instead, he said, "Maybe you should back off. Vanessa's carrying this family right now." That sentence hit me harder than anything my sister had done. Because my husband wasn't worried about me. He was defending her. And I didn't know it yet, but he had a reason. That was the first crack in my marriage. But the truth hiding behind it was so much worse. Watch the full story to see what my sister and my husband were really planning behind my back.